We'll wait for another 2-3 minutes. We'll start. Huh? Okay, another last minute will start. Last class, have you understood a little bit?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning to all. Okay. So start. Every class will start at exactly 11:05. Huh? Because 5 minutes gap, the reason you have another class, it may be delayed for 1 or 2 minutes. So we'll plan accordingly that 11:05 means exactly after 5 minutes you are going to start. But I'll on at 11, but we'll start at 11. Huh? Don't think that I'll start also at 11. Not like. Okay, so we studied that what is this system call and how it is working. And in between this OS and hardware, we see one more software is involved here, that is called as the device driver. And the device driver plays very important role because the device driver is the software is prepared by the company who has made this devices, because the he knows about what are the things involved in these devices, so that he can write the code accordingly, and OS takes the help of this device driver to communicate with this hardware. And this hardware sometimes included with the device controller. What is the responsibility of device controller? Later we'll study, because this device controller itself is a hardware. Why? This hardware is simply a mechanical devices, but mechanical devices cannot work something unless until some instruction will be executed or some instruction will be given to this mechanical devices. So for that, some kind of a processor or something has to be involved there. That's why Every devices will be managed with a device controller, which consists of some registers and CPUs. And in based on this layer structure has designed. Now we have studied last I just discussed a little bit that what this OS does. We just studied one thing, that is it is managing the complexity. But how it is managing the complexity? The managing the complexity by managing the resources. Then what are the basic resources? The resources may be some hardware. The resources may be some software kind of things. Among this 5 type, if you can think, the processes, not the CPU, think the processes is itself is a software, file is also a software, but this memory, IO and protection, the protection may be software as well as the hardware. Both the things will be there. Why? In some cases, you are not allowing one person to access another person's file. In that scenario, the protection will be acted with a software. In some cases, the operating system is not giving you the permission to access a particular devices. In those cases, the protection also involves certain hardware. So that's why purely the processes and files are the softwares which is managed by your OS, and as well as your memory, IO and some protection management has to be also done by the OS. So that's why your OS, whatever the OS you are saying, the OS basically consists of these particular things. He is managing few things. One is called as the process management. One is the file management. One is the IO management. And most important one is the memory management. All other are important. Process management is more important, but the memory, why I am saying, without a memory you cannot do anything. So this is memory management. Okay, and some protection management. Okay, then what are the things basically does in this process management? Do you know, before going to this process management, I'll tell you, when you're writing a.c, it is also a file. When it is compiled, generate a.out, even if it is a executable file, still it is a file. But the moment you write ./a.out, we don't know what happens, but that happens is become a process. The moment you write down a.out, your program, the program may be a source program, maybe one executable program, but that is a program. That program will be converted to a process. What is process? Again, after 2 classes. But that process is little kind of a subtle kind of thing. It is not a gross. You cannot imagine that whether it is a memory or whether it is a hardware or what, we don't know. But when you try to execute one program, that becomes a process. And that process you have to handle. That process is handled by the operating system. Then what are the things has to be done? You have to create a process. You have to kill the process. Like there is a kill command. When you see attend the lab, if a process is created, after the creation of the process, I can explicitly kill the process, or I can suspend the process. I can resume the process. And another 2 things which is necessary. One is called the communication between the processes. Communication between the processes. And another most important thing which you are going to study, what is called as a synchronization among the processes. Synchronization among processes. Yes. Yes. Then what is a create process? Everybody knows. I'll create a.out. Yes. Then I have to kill it. So how to kill it, we will see. That is a kill command to kill this. The suspend. If a process is currently not executed by the CPU, you can say somehow it is suspended. Once it will get once again the CPU, then it will resume. Like last class, I think I have explained. If 5 persons are enter into a barber shop and the barber is going to cut their hairs, then what the barber will do, he may not prefer one person's whole hair cut and another person's, then another person. What the clever barber will do, he will cut one person's left hand side little hair, then we'll say that you sit, the next person's another little hair. Like this, you will be rotate and rotate with these 5 persons, and at the end, all the 5 persons hair will be completed. Hair cutting will be completed. So in that case, when a barber is actually cutting the hair of a particular person, that process is active, means that person is active. The person which is currently half cut and sit there, that is maybe a suspended. And once it is suspended, and once your barber is ready and saying that now you come to this chair, I will cut your hair, then again it will become resume. Then what is the necessity between this communication? When 2 processes are created, it may happens because these 2 processes has a different memory. The memory assigned for this process and memory assigned for this process will be completely different. But it sometimes happen, the process has some variable. Suppose he has calculated a root over of a, and the same root over of a's result he wants to get it to do some operation. Means what? The root over of a has to be transferred to this process. For transferring, there is some communication must be happen, and this communication the process cannot handle in their own way. The reason is that every process acted like an independent one. Since they are independent one, there is no common thing between the 2 processes. If the 2 processes does not have any common thing, how these 2 processes can be communicated their data? So in that case, your communication between the processes will be also supported by this CPU. Why I told? Even if there is a a dot out is a program, executable program. Suppose you open 2 terminals. If you write here /a dot out, and here also you write /a dot out. In both the cases, the memory allocated for this and the memory allocated for this inside the RAM will be completely different. That's why there is no common thing. If there is no common things, somebody has to be provided some kind of a common platform through which both of them can able to communicate. Then the last one, which is most important, synchronization. The synchronization is necessary. Just think how the synchronization plays a very important role. Yes, assume that this is one ATM machine, and this is a one button. Again, so this is one ATM machine, and think that this is another ATM machine. Okay, yes. Then what happens? You and your brother or sister have the same account because joint account is there. So he has also entered his ATM card in this ATM. He has also entered his ATM card in this ATM. Then what happens? He wants to withdraw 10 rupees and he wants to withdraw 20 rupees from the same account. And this bank has an account for both this brother and sister. Okay. Then what will happen? If you have 1,000 rupees and if 10 and 20 will be withdrawn from 2 ATMs, then it should be 970. But this is a process and this is a process. And if both the processes are deducting this 1,000, it may happen he has deducted 1,000 minus 10. At the same time, he is also entered. So he is also deducted 1,000 minus 20. Whichever is the last one, that is my last amount is left or not. Suppose this is first executed, then this is executed. Then what is the updated in the account? 980. So brother and sister will be very happy. What? They have deducted 30 rupees, but in their account only 20 rupees are deducted. And if you can think, if this will be executed first, then this will be executed, then brother and sister will be more happy because the update data will be 990, even if they have 30 rupees deducted and doing like this. Yes.
First, if 1,000 minus 20 is done, then it will be updated to 980.
Very, very nice point. I want that you should ask like this. Yes. So what happens here? When this deduction will be takes place, how the deduction will be takes place? You can say, sir, First, he has to be read what is my current balance. Then he has to be reduced 10. Then it is come as a 990. Then you can say, sir, it should be 990 minus 20. It is becoming 970. Then why you are saying it is 1000? Then what happens? Let's see. When this giving a request, this is also giving a request. This is a single machine. This single machine has one CPU. And this CPU is receiving the request, execute it, receiving the request and execute it. And the last class I told, when two programs are at a time executed, can the two programs will be executed one after another or simultaneously? Tell me, whether it has to be executed simultaneously. So if it is simultaneously, now the two processes has to be run for these two things or not. For this ATM request and for this ATM request, there will be two processes is going to be run on top of the same account or not. Agreed or not?
Yes, sir.
If there is a two processes, what are the statements are written? Read the balance, then balance minus 10, then update the account. Update account. A process. The same thing here is also running. What? Read the balance. Then you can say balance minus 20 and update the account. Then this is the code and this is the code of the two processes. Since you told me that these two processes are running simultaneously, what happens? Suppose this line has executed by this process. And then after, CPU immediately changed to it. Then he is also executing this. If it is done like this, then what happens? His balance, he has received 1000. He has also received 1000. After that, if you do this, then do this, what should will become? 980 or not?
Yes, sir.
Agreed or not? Yes.
Sir, then to synchronize, we have
Yes.
to
Then what is
to process one after another, right?
very nice? You have to do something in such a manner that after finishing one thing of these things, then another process is going to start. Means in between this, some synchronization is required or not. Otherwise, what happens? The whole thing will be done. Now you can say, sir, the synchronization can be done it here. I can't. Why? Because when you are inserting the ATM card, you cannot tell to your brother, I am inserting, you don't insert. ऐसे करोगे कभी कभी नहीं, because आप बोलोगे कि बैंक का ATM है, क्या फर्क पड़ता है. So you insert your card, he is also inserting at the same time, and same time the requests are coming. If it is not handled and synchronized properly, definitely the imbalance comes into picture. Okay, so that's why the synchronization is also handled by my operating system. Got it? So this is called as the process management. Yes, ask, please.
Sir, I have a doubt regarding the device driver.
Yes.
Sir, if for every device, every hardware device, sir, we require a device driver, sir, then we should also require a CPU driver also, na? Because all CPU architecture different.
That time when initially the operating system handle it, that time he knows about that where to access. You can ask a question not like that. Rather, you can say, when I'm accessing the CPU, first time, how the CPU knows that? Very, very nice point you have pointed out. How the CPU knows that where to start?
Yes, sir.
That is also a question or big question or not. And you told that your CPU architecture gets changed. CPU architecture, what does it mean?
Sir, like that, like different processors have different way of functioning.
Yes, very nice. Let's take in a one processor. If you can think, ADD is a addition. In another processor, AD may be an addition. Yes.
Yes,
Then,
sir.
if your application will be give the AD or ADD, then it has to be different from the one processor to another processor. That is required or not?
Yes, sir.
And how he can know these things? So these things will be handled at the upper level by the compiler itself. When you are doing something at the compiler, the compiler knows that you are able to run this particular program in which kind of a platform.
Okay, sir.
Are you getting my point? That is a one level of work principle has to be performed. Also, in the hardware level, also some distinction has made. Time to time, we're going to study. But one example simply I have told: if my instruction name gets changed, that instruction name will be handled at the compiler level, because you know, if you are running one compiler in a Windows machine with some Intel processor, and the same program you want to run in another machine, then your compiler may be vary, because based on that processor you have to design a different kind of code. So that will become better. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Fine. So now comes to the memory management. We'll go a little faster for the memory management. The reason is that we'll study around 20 classes, 15 to 20 classes for this. Each one is one unit. So first we are going to study process management. Then we'll study the memory management. In the memory management, what? It will basically keep track of free memory and allocated memory. Yes, and when you are saying memory management, it is always pointing to our RAM, mostly. Okay, it is not your hard disks. Okay, this is pointing to RAM. Now, next thing, it is also handle the distributed the memory among different processes. Distribute memory among different processes. Now you can say, sir, what is this? It is confusing, because if you have 1,000 processes currently started, and each process demands for some memory, and let's assume that every process demands now 2 GB memory, and you have only 1 GB of RAM. What I told, there are thousands processes. Yes, and every process demands 2 GB. Then you require 2000 GB, but you have only 4 GB of RAM. Then what the operating system has to do? The operating system has to be decided how much memory he is going to give to what kind of processes at what time. So that decision is also handled by your memory management. So these are the basic things which will study during the memory management. But it is very risky task and tough task also. Next comes the file management. The file management says creation of file, deletion of file, or you can say file or a directory, deletion of the file or directory, linking of a directory, linking of file, yes, sharing of the files. How it is done, then you have to study during the file management. Okay, next comes
Copy.
Sir,
copy and move.
Copy, and there are many now, that's why I have not written. Create, delete बस लिखा हूँ, move है, copy है, renaming है, there are many such are there or not. So yes, all these things we are going to study in case of file management. And in case of IO management, the IO management basically take care of how to handle with the IO controller and device driver. How to interact with this. Because once the operating system interact with this fellow properly, their responsibility is to interact with your actual hardware. So the operating system does not directly enter into the actual hardware to do these things. And the last one is the protection management, which will be studied during that time. So what kind of protection is giving? As I told, the protection, most important one protection management is the access control. The access control means if there is a n users have created in a single machine, one user's data cannot be accessed by another user unless until it will give a permission. So you'll study during your lab classes some kind of a commands called as chmod. Yes, change mode means whether you are giving a read permission, write permission, executable permission to whom, to which file, those kind of things you are going to study here. So these are the basic things which is handled by your operating system. Okay, so the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 means your course is now consist of total 5 units. Okay, so one by one we'll study, but today's class will start with first the types of operating system. Everybody understood what is a definition of the OS? क्या बोलोगे? Definition of OS, anybody? Without रट के क्या क्या काम कर रहा है OS?
Sir, it is an
Reduces
interface.
complexity.
सर वो एक सेट ऑफ
Interface.
प्रोग्राम है
हाँ,
वो
एक
इंटरफेस
हाँ इंटरफेस बनाता है और
यूजर और मशीन
So reduces the complexity.
reduce the
Okay.
complexity and managing the resources. Yes or no? And what is your layer structure? The layer structure already you have discussed. This you have to draw it very nicely. I am drawing it very roughly. You have to draw, and while drawing now inside the OS you have to put everything. And one thing I left out, most important one. क्या भूल गया हूँ बोलिए तो पढ़े हैं लेकिन
System program, of course.
है कि नहीं? Because of this system call, our top fellow is able to access it or not. So this is also present inside the OS. Yes. That's it.
यस सर
Yes, right. So first kind of type of OS when initially it was designed, the computer has designed, that is called as the serial processing operating system. Serial processing OS. Little theoretical, time to time will go because this now you little theory, yeah? Don't feel bored. The serial processing OS at 50 years back when the initially the computer has developed, first time when they introduced this OS, that is called as the serial processing OS. And what it does in this OS, in this particular OS, usually the user processes, yes, user prepares a job, how it will prepare a job? He will prepare this job by writing. Writing means he is actually make a binary format.
It is done manually.
It is, I'm saying no binary format. Actually, the user has to be write a binary format instructions. Okay, binary format instruction to be put into a punch card. Yes, punch card ऐसे usually होता है. यहाँ पर ऐसे आप देखोगे तो एक 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 होल जैसा रहता है. Yes, अगर ये होल है तो 0 है, फिल है तो 1 है. ऐसे सोचिए. Yes, so your whole code will be written inside the punch card, and this punch card is actually given to whom? This punch card has to be submitted to the operator.
Sir, it is done manually.
Manually, fully manually. Submitted to the operator.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, can you please explain the working of that punch card?
One second. I have not explained basically. So if a user is writing a program and try to execute in the machine in case of serial processing operating system, he writes a binary formatted code directly. How he will write? He will write this binary formatted code in the punch card. Like I told you, a small example. Suppose I want to add 2 numbers. Suppose the instruction for adding 2 numbers for CPU is ADD 56. Then what you will do? The ADD is a English letter, but this English letter cannot be understood, and it is called as a opcode. And this opcode has, let's take 1011, and 5 means 101, 6 means 110. So these things will be inserted into this punch card for each instruction. Okay, Once it is inserted into the punch card, then that punch card will be submitted to the operator. In the big university, what they are doing when it was available that time, they will just, a student will be write this program, give it to the operator and sign it in a hard copy. You will make a hard copy signature. Okay, hard copy submission. Hard copy signature, he will make it. And after that, what he'll do, once these 5 or 10 jobs are coming to this operator, then the operator one by one start inserting this punch card to the CPU and execute it. Means the operator plays a very important role. If there is a 5 users has entered, given their punch card, then what this operator has to do, and if it is my machine, and the operator has to be put this punch card into this machine, execute it, get the output. Put this, execute it, and get the output. What is the difficulty? The difficulty is that in this scenario, the user interaction is not actually done. User interaction with machine is not possible. Why? What is the reason? The reason is that they will submit it today, and the operator will tell that after 10 days, you please come back. I will tell you what is the output. Are you getting my point? How difficult it is at that time. And what happens? If your program has a little code error, then after 15 days, when you will come back to get your result, the operator will say that your program has a code. You please again rewrite and submit it for another 15 days. Yes, this is a very huge task. Because
if that punch card will be cancelled,
yes, please.
entire punch card will be then rejected.
Without punch card?
Sir, I mean telling if there is error, then the person has to again submit a new punch card or modify that old punch card.
That punch card will take, modify, and again resubmit. Okay. So that is the way it is happening. But this is a basically a normal issue. The normal issue with respect to what? The manually everything is going on. But the most important problem is that if let's take it is a COBOL program and it is a C program and this is a COBOL program. He is my user 1, he is my user 2, and he is my user 3. So when this user 1 submit its job with a punch card, what kind of things he will be submitted? He will be submitted basically few things. He will be say that he will be give you the program and a data and control statements. Means you think that your punch card will be consist of these things. What is the program? What kind of data this program takes? And this control statement is basically the where the program begins, beginning of a program, end of program, command to execute this program. All these things will be command to execute these programs will be written here. So once it will be submitted, then what happens here? After submitting this particular one, then the operator has to be executed. But how it will be executed? It will be executed by few things. The operator has to be first make a compilation. Think. Yes. Then next he has to be load the program. Yes, the compiler has to be loaded first. Think in that way. Then program has to be loaded. Then again you can say that it will be execute the program. Then your program will be unmounted, removed from the machine. And last one is again the compiler has to be removed. What is the meaning? I'll tell you. Compiler has to be removed. What does it mean? Means if a COBOL program comes, what the operator will do? The operator will be load a compiler for the COBOL, then load the program itself, then execute this program by clicking on some buttons. Once the output is come or the error is come, he has to be remove this program and has to be remove this compiler. Then please look into it. what a big problem comes. If this is a COBOL program, this is a C program, this is a COBOL program, and if this sequence the person's students have submitted their job, then in this COBOL program he has inserted the compiler of the COBOL. After execution, again the compiler of the COBOL has to be removed. Again C's compiler will be included, C's compiler will be removed. Again the COBOL compiler will be inserted, and the COBOL compiler will be removed. Now if it is the case, and if you are the operator, can you modify certain things which will be better for this kind of machine?
No.
क्या करोगे आप लोग?
Sir, COBOL after COBOL.
हाँ, तो क्या करोगे? Those same kind of jobs you bring it together. Yes or no? If you can bring this same kind of jobs together, then you can say, sir, if COBOL, this COBOL program and this COBOL program will be combined together and try to run it. Then how it will done? It will be done in like this. First it is a COBOL 1, and it is again COBOL 2, and it is again C program. Then what will do? Here the COBOL compiler will be loaded. Then the COBOL 1 will be loaded. COBOL 1 will be executed. After COBOL 1 will be executed, the COBOL 1 program will be executed, the COBOL 1 program will be removed. Do you need to remove this compiler, or you have to directly load the COBOL 2?
The-
Load
yeah,
COBOL 2. Direct COBOL 2.
Directly
COBOL 2. Once this COBOL 2 gets completed, the operator knows that there is no such COBOL program. Then the C's compiler will be loaded or not. Then what you're doing? You are making a batch of same type of job. That's why from serial processing operating system, the next operating system called as a batch operating system. Okay, batch operating system. So what this batch operating system says that here it will be the first, the user has to be submit the job. User has to submit the job. Then what the operator has to do? The operator has to make the different batches, different groups. Called batch. Depending upon the type of program. Means you can say the similar kind of program brings to one batch. Similar type of program belongs to one batch. Yes, now you can say it will be little more comfortable to execute, or it will be little faster as compared to the serial operating system or not. Otherwise, other things are similar. It is also written in a, mostly it will be written in a punch card. The user has to be submit, then the operator has to be check that what are the submission, then you will segregate it into batches, and each batch wise it is going to run. Then what is the problem? Is there any problem happens? The problem here is still, the problem is basically still the user could not interact. Interaction of the user during the execution is not possible. Is not possible. This is the first case. If you have a doubt, you can ask me. The second very important case. The important case is, suppose I have a COBOL job and there is a COBOL 2. There is a Java 1 and there is a Java 2. That time there is no Java. There is a Java 3. And this is my C++. C++1. Like this, he has made this batch. The moment he has entered this C1 to my machine, the C1 gets completed. then the C1 has to be removed and this C2 has to be manually inserted. Means after stopping of one program, the another program has to be manually changed by the operator. And during this manual change, the CPU is idle. Correct or not? If you are making this manual changes, then the CPU becomes idle. So to avoid the CPU idle time, they have used a one concept is called as the resident monitor. Yes, what is a resident monitor? It is a program present in the memory to make automatic sequencing of the jobs. Automatic sequence among the different jobs. Different jobs based on the control statement present in the job. What does it mean? I told what are the control statement basically present. I told beginning of the job, end of the job, how to run this job, all these things are present. If this is a program which is already present here, let's take this is my resident monitor. If it is present here, if one job enter, and since inside this job or the punch card, if you can think in a other way, it is written that where it starts, where it is ends. The moment the ending thing will become, then your resident monitor knows that it is ended. Then he can directly load another program automatically. So the in between this loading, unloading of the unmounting of the C1 and mounting of the C2, the gap between this, the time has reduced a lot. So by this way, the CPU is not idle. So that thing will be handled by what? The resident monitor. And another problem comes into picture, even if the resident monitor will be there. They're saying always the CPU is faster than the IO. Because all the IO unit, like your keyboard, mouse, and this, the way they are executing, the CPU is quite faster than this. If the CPU is quite faster, what's the problem will come? The problem is coming is that if I am reading some data from IO and this CPU is going to execute it, or this CPU has to be put this data to a monitor and think that it is a keyboard, the data coming from the keyboard itself takes more time. And once the CPU gets the output, sending the output to this monitor also takes more time. Then what will happen? Since the speed between this IO devices and the CPU varies a lot, the execution delay is achieving more. That's why what to do? How can you reduce the execution delay? So to reduce this execution delay, because why it is happening? Because the most of the time the CPU is keep quiet. The reason, because when he is try to receive a data or send the data to the output devices, the output devices could not able to receive it so fast. So that's the reason the CPU has to do some other approach so that the CPU should not just stay idle for a lot of time. Just 1 minute. Sorry, I just interrupted. So this is, so what you have to do so that it will become faster. So what they're saying, to make this CPU should not be ideal for long time because of this slower IOs, they put in another technique called as buffering. Yes. So by this buffering, it will make you faster. Then what is a buffer? The buffer is basically a small part of the memory. Part of memory. Then what it does, if the CPU wants to send something to this monitor, the CPU is actually put in a buffer. Yes, this data. And from this buffer, whenever this monitor will be free or what sequence it will free, it is going to be taken. Yes, then how can you fill in your program? You can fill in a program like when you are writing it is a printf and writing here ABC. The moment you type ABC, in some scenario, the ABC will be not immediately displayed. Sometimes you'll see, I'll show you also. Even if I'm writing a printf and there is another printf KPY is there, after execution of this line, the ABC will not display. When it will display, the whole program completed. When the next program you have started with a dot slash something, then that time the output of the previous program comes into picture. How it is happening? Because this printf is called as a lined buffer. The lined buffer's responsibility is to, unless until, because every IO devices will be connected with a buffer. The moment this printf gets executed, this ABC will be stored in the here, but the ABC has not come to the screen exactly. It is stored in some part of the memory which will be predefined as a buffer. And once it will be stored in the ABC, this ABC will not immediately comes. And when it will come, this line buffer says that unless until a /n comes or unless until this buffer become full, this data cannot be flushed to your monitor. So that's why what to do. If after printf you can write a /n, you cannot get this kind of problem. You can see immediately your ABC will become to this place. Why? Because this printf itself is using a lined buffer, and a lined buffer says that if a /n comes, then he will be immediately flush. So that's why even if your processor is very fast, even if your monitor is not able to receive in the same speed, but if I'm keeping these things inside a buffer, then from this buffer you can able to extract the data later. So that's why the buffering plays an important role to make the CPU to be less idle. That is one case. Now you can say next. Yes.
Sir, you said that \n will flush that buffer.
Yes. Yes. Yes, correct. I told that \n will be flush that buffer. \n will not flush that buffer. I am saying when a \n will come inside this buffer, then it is going to be flush. Because \n is a character now, how he can flush it. Are you getting? Yes. That. Okay.
So the buffer is programmed in this way that whenever a new line will come, the existing content will be flushed. Okay.
Yes. Next class I'll show you also how it is not displaying, but the moment I'll write a /n, it is going to be displayed.
Excuse me, sir.
Ask.
Sir, like you told that the operator will make the groups for batch operating system. So, sir, here the operator means what? The operating system
No, person.
Okay, sir.
Okay, that. So
सर ये जो फ्लश वाला जो केस है सर ये केवल बैकस्लैश के साथ होगा कि सारे स्किप सीक्वेंस के साथ?
No, only \n के साथ. Because space /t में नहीं होगा, /b में नहीं होगा, /n में.
Sir, but endl automatically flushes the buffer.
Endl is a /n internally.
Okay.
In C++, you are saying now endl.
Yes.
That
sir.
is that is a /.
So scatter, yeah, if we give a space in scanf, then it takes some time to take the input. Is that because it is a space buffer?
No, in case of scanf, you are manually doing it, because what I'll tell, in case of scanf, it is not happening. Suppose I am writing a scanf. Very nice question. Please see, look into it. In case of scanf, you are delaying. You are delaying means what? The cursor is blinking. Unless until this 12 will be entered, you cannot go to this place also. Correct or not?
Yes, sir.
So it is not like this. Here it is not importance of the buffer or not buffer. I am not pointing because you have not entered. That's why he is not going to the next line. But I am saying here, even if the printf's ABC has not displayed it here, still this printf will be able to execute it. And this is called as the blocked statement and unblocked statement. Few statements are called as a blocking statement. Blocking statement means unless until this war gets finished, you cannot go to the next statement. But in this case, just see, do you think that this ABC has to be properly displayed in the monitor, then next printf will be executed? Not necessary. Yes or no? Not necessary. Because he is saying I am putting in the buffer. Whenever he will be fetched from the buffer, I don't know. I will execute my KPY. Again, KPY will be stored it here. Again, go to the next line. So he will go on executing. Means it is called as unblocking statements. It is not going to block anything here. But this scanf is a blocking statement. Blocking statement means he is waiting for the user to be input some data. Then only I can go back. Okay. So that's why this buffering is very important for making the CPU to be less ideal and make the processing to be faster. That is. Now somebody will ask that if sir CPU is too fast, suppose a 100 किलोमीटर के स्पीड में रन कर रहा है, ये सर 500 मीटर पे रन कर रहा है, then even if you create a buffer, immediately it will fill this buffer, but he could not take it. Yes or no? It will happen or not if it is too fast. That's why what they're saying, the buffering are of three types. One is called as a single buffer. One is called as the double buffer. One is called as circular buffer. So in the single buffer, what is saying, if it is my CPU, if it is my IO devices, then maintaining only one buffer. So he'll keep it inside and from here he will receive, or in the reverse manner. Yes. But if my buffer, I cannot make a big buffer also because nobody will be provide me a big size memory because memory is very crucial for every program. So he cannot give me. So I'll maintain one small one. Then if the CPU is too fast, he will be fill immediately. Then he could not take it. Then the CPU has to be ideal. Then what in case of double buffer saying? Why don't you make a CPU here? Two buffers you maintain it. Yes. Once this buffer will be filled, the moment he will be extracted from this buffer to here, that time he is going to fill this buffer. So like this, in alternate manner, if it is going on, first you fill here, then he will take from here, then you can come to this place. Like you have remember, we are using one queue. Have you remember the creating a stack using queue? दो queues आप use कर रहे थे, याद है ना? दो queues है, one queue में आपका deletion आ गया, तो everything will be transferred here and you do the work here. In the same manner, you think there will be two kinds of buffer. One buffer become filled, then from that filled buffer he will take this data. That time the second buffer will be there. And if it is CPU is too fast, then दो buffer भी full हो जाएगा. Then you can make a multiple buffers, and this multiple buffers in between this CPU and this IO will be acted as a circular manner. कैसे circular होगा? इसको fill करेगा, फिर इसको fill करेगा, then this, after that again this, like this in a circular manner it is coming or not. So if it is used more than two buffers, they named as a circular.
So when will it end?
When will
the circular loop ends?
Circular never ends, no? Never ends. Just see, first it will fill in this B1 buffer. Once the B1 buffer will be filled up, the CPU filled in B2. And during he is filling, this B1 try to release here. The data will be released from the B1 to IO. Then once the B2 will be filled up, then B3 will be filled up. Then B4 will be filled up. When B4 will be filled up, that time B1 may be have released or not.
Oh, yes.
Then it is going on like this circular manner. Okay, here exactly they are maintaining a circular linked list. which you are
Sir,
storing in data structure. Yes, tell me.
sir, but how is it increasing the speed of the IO device?
He is not increasing the speed of the IO device. I am just saying that the CPU is not ideal. अगर CPU के लिए जगह नहीं है यहाँ पर देखिए, CPU can it execute my next statement?
No, sir.
No, but in this case what? The CPU is still executing his next statement. बताओ CPU तो काम करता रहा है.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The CPU is not ideal. So again they're saying last moment. Again they're saying, but this buffer is basically handled with only one program. Yes or no? When a program is running, only that program's output will be stored in the buffer. But sometimes the CPU is also too fast, and at that time many programs are coming where this buffering may not handle it. Then they have designed another sophisticated buffer called as S-pooling. Yes, you can say it is a sophisticated buffer. Yes, what this sophisticated buffer says, today I'll just give a diagram, the next class more detail. This sophisticated buffer says that, let's take this is my card reader. And this is my printer. Yes, and this is my CPU. Yes, and what you have to do, the card from the card reader, punch card has inserted. From the card reader, you have to read it, and the CPU has to be execute, and that output has to be going to be printed. Okay, everybody understood what you have to do? Now, if you are maintaining also a buffer, then the buffer is very slow, because the buffer is also in a memory, and that have to create a multiple buffer, or if it is a multiple, then circular buffer like this. Instead of doing this, what they thought, since my card reader is too slow as compared to the other IO devices, why you are using directly from the card reader to the buffer? Because anyhow card reader, जैसे अभी एक कोई point out किए थे कि सर IO तो अभी भी slow है. The IO is not improving its speed. Similarly, one can think, sir, card reader ऐसे तो बहुत slow है. Then how he can increase my speed? He cannot increase my speed. So what he's saying, why don't you choose one more IO which will be little faster than this card reader? Think in that way. Yes. So what he took, he take it is a hard disk, and inside the hard disk he is maintain one area, and that area is called as a spooled buffer. Yes. And what the card reader has to do, the card reader will be write these things into the spooled buffer, and from this spooled buffer it will bring it to your memory, means RAM, and from this memory he has to fetch it, and after executing, this may be also slower than somebody else. Then what he has to give the output and store it here, and from this spooled buffer it will be go to this printer. And this whole process is called as spooling. Means simultaneously two peripherals are working at the same time. How? Because the moment the three things are doing it here, the CPU is executing a job, the card from the card reader it is copied to the spooled buffer, and from the spooled buffer it is going to the printer. Means three simultaneous work are going on at the same time. And the next question comes, as I told in this previous figure, I specified that all these buffers are currently using the same program's output. But if you can look into it, it may be three different programs. One program's data is currently read from the card reader. Another program's which data is already present, his data is currently executing. And another programs whose data is already executed and get the output, that output is now coming to the printer. Means through spooling, IO operations and execution, two jobs may be different. But in case if you're buffering, the job which is doing this IO with this buffer, the same job has to be executed by the CPU. Means the IO operations and the computation, both are doing in the same job in case of buffering. But in case of spooling, then three kinds of job can be done. It may be a one job, it may be a more than one job. But now we can say one question may be raised and will stop like a serial. The question comes, sir, when the CPU is executing, how an IO device could able to store it inside the hard disk without the involvement of the CPU? ऐसा कभी हो सकता है? CPU has not involved, but my card reader's data is directly storing in the hard disk, and hard disk spooling buffers data will be printing to the printer without involvement of the CPU. Is it possible? Next class. Okay, understood a little
Direct
bit?
linking.
Directly कैसे करेंगे? Without a processor, can it is able to happen?
Yes sir, yes sir.
नहीं हो पाएगा ना. कोई तो एक फेच करके बोलेगा ना, वो यहाँ पर मैं रख रहा हूं, क्योंकि एक डिवाइस है, एक अलग डिवाइस है. सेम टाइप का होता तो फिर भी सही है, वो सोचेंगे हाँ ठीक है, this card reader and this are the two are same devices, but this is a different devices. This itself is a different devices. This is another devices. How can you think? Okay, next class. But this is a buffer, and this buffer is not created in the RAM. Where it is created? In the
main memory.
In the hard disk. Hard
Yes,
disk.
sir, hard disk.
This is in the memory. That's all.
Sir.
Huh.
Sir, like चीज
Now class ends. You can leave, but you can ask the question.
सर आपने बोला था कि ये whenever we create a file, तो उसमें जो जो कंटेंट है वो ये प्रोग्रामिंग फाइल में वो सब एक वर्चुअल मेमोरी में सेव होता है, और यहाँ पे
वर्चुअल मेमोरी जैसे बिहेव करता है. हाँ सही बोला. हाँ.
और यहाँ पे जो हम लोग इनपुट आउटपुट दिखा रहे हैं ये एक बफर में दिखा रहे हैं, तो वर्चुअल मेमोरी और बफर में डिफरेंस क्या हुआ?
जो बफर है, बफर आपका एक मेमोरी एरिया इनसाइड द रैम, बट द वर्चुअल मेमोरी is not related to the normal data. The virtual memory is basically related to a application or a process. But because why what I'm saying, suppose I want to store 10, I cannot say that the 10 is stored in a virtual memory. Actual चाहिए. आप 10 को क्या कहीं virtually सोच के बोल दोगे कि 10 रह सकता है? कभी नहीं. नहीं, उसमें एक्चुअल मेमोरी चाहिए. लेकिन मैं बोलूंगा कि मैं F1 को 10 बार कॉल करूंगा. यस, 10 बार कॉल करूंगा लाइक रिकर्सन से. F10 लिखाऊं, एक फैक्टोरियल 10 लिखाऊं जो कि F10, F9, F1 तक जाएगा, 10 बार कॉल करेगा. तो आप अभी सोच लिए कि फॉर F10 आई नीड, इफ one F1 takes 2 bytes, I need 20 bytes.
Yes, sir.
Do you need this 20 byte at the very beginning, or you have to just write that I need 0 to 20 bytes?
I need 0 to 20.
That is my virtual memory. मतलब अभी तक मेमोरी भी नहीं है, लेकिन मैं जान गया कि इस पर्टिकुलर F110 रिकर्सिव कॉल के लिए मुझे करीब करीब 20 बाइट का चाहिए, एंड इस एरिया 20 बाइट में काम होगा. लेकिन अभी तक 20 बाइट मेमोरी आपको एलोकेट नहीं हुआ है. Are you getting the point?
Yes, sir.
That is your virtual. But here, when you are reading the data, when you are reading this data, no, when the data is stored somewhere, it cannot be virtual. It will be actual. Okay. While processing any instruction, that time the virtual plays.
तो सर फिर उसके बाद तब ये काम हो जाएगा तो ये बफर अपना सारा कंटेंट को हटा देगा, फ्लश कर देगा.
यस, जब पूरा काम हो जाएगा ये हटाना भी चाहिए, नहीं तो हार्ड डिस्क में फुल हो जाएगा ना. दो तरीका यहाँ पर हार्ड डिस्क यूज कर रहे हैं. कोई बोल पाएगा क्यों हार्ड डिस्क को यूज किया, क्यों मेमोरी को यूज नहीं किया यहाँ पर बफर में?
सर क्योंकि वो चीपर है और भर ज्यादा क्वांटिटी में.
हाँ, दो चीजें. वेरी नाइस. बिकॉज आपका मेमोरी भी, ये हार्ड डिस्क थोड़ा चीपर भी है एंड लार्जर साइज का है as compared to the RAM. Yes, that's right.
सर
हाँ
सर, तो वो कैलॉक, मैलॉक और रियलॉक में सर, तो वो ये सिस्टम कॉल्स में काम करता है ना, और वो वर्चुअल पेज बनाता है, वर्चुअल.
वो सब वर्चुअल बनाते हैं, वो सब वर्चुअल बना के फिर बाद में बोलता है कि मैं यहाँ रखूं.
ओके सर।
समझ रहे?
तो
हाँ
printf को छोड़ के सब ब्लॉक स्टेटमेंट है क्या एक तरह से?
कौन सा
जैसे scanf ब्लॉक स्टेटमेंट है
हाँ
वैसे ही
जितना रीडिंग स्टेटमेंट है सब ब्लॉक जैसा है होगा, होना चाहिए कि नहीं?
यस सर,
जितना रीडिंग वाला हुआ सब ब्लॉक्ड होगा,
यस
क्योंकि जब तक आप रिसीव नहीं करोगे नेक्स्ट स्टेटमेंट कैसे जाओगे?
यस सर।
ऐसे
सर
ओके।
सर वो मल्टीपल बफर में सर उसको सर्कुलर बनाने की क्या जरूरत है सर?
ये सर्कुलर जैसे बिहेव कर रहा है कि नहीं? देखिए अगर आपके पास 3 है, सपोज सोचिए कि आपके पास 3 बकेट्स हैं, बकेट, ठीक है ना? यहाँ पे आपका कोई दोस्त यहाँ पर यूज कर रहा है, बकेट से पानी लेके नहा रहा है, एंड यू आर फिलिंग द बकेट। कैसे करोगे बोलिए तो? यू आर हियर एंड आपका दोस्त यहाँ है, वो नहा रहा है, आप कैसे बकेट फिल करोगे? इस बकेट को आप फिल करोगे, आप थोड़ा ज्यादा फास्ट रहो फिल करने के लिए, सो यू हैव टू फिल इट हियर। द मोमेंट यू फिल दिस थिंग्स, ही ट्राई टू ए मॉग में ले रहा है, आप पूरा एक बकेट, एक बड़ा बकेट से लाके यहाँ से डाल रहे हो, ये पूरा एक मॉग करके ले रहा है। सो 20 मॉग के बाद वो पूरा बकेट को खाली करेगा, लेकिन आप एक ही बकेट में ही डायरेक्टली डाल रहे हो। अभी बोलिए यहाँ पे फिल कर दोगे, उस टाइम पे फिल हो गया, आपके लिए फिल हो गया, तो ये धीरे धीरे ले रहा है, तो आप तुरंत यहाँ जाओगे, इसको फिल करोगे, फिर इसको फिल करोगे। इसको फिल करने के बाद सपोज दिस पर्सन हैज एम्प्टी दिस बकेट, then what is your duty, where to fill the next water?
Yes sir, I understood.
That's
सर
हाँ।
मल्टीपल बफर को सर्कुलर बफर बनाने का ये भी एक रीजन हो सकता है, क्योंकि अगर हम लोग बहुत सारा बफर बना देंगे तो उस मेमोरी की है जो उसका स्टोरेज है वो बहुत ज्यादा हो जाएगा।
हाँ। वो भी होगा, वो भी होगा, लेकिन वो भी एक कैपेसिटी के अंदर होना चाहिए कि नहीं? मैं बोलूंगा आप 100 बफर बना दीजिए, लेकिन मेरा मेमोरी तो उतना भी नहीं है,
यस सर।
है कि नहीं?
नहीं सर, आप जब बोले सर्कुलर तो सर मैं सोच लिया कि सर B1 से लेके हम B4 में डाल रहे हैं, लेकिन एक्चुअली ऐसा नहीं करते। यस
अभी समझ पाए ना?
यस सर,
मैं भी वैसे ही सोचा था, आपने डायग्राम ऐसे करके बना दिया। मुझे लग रहा था कि B4 से B3 जाएगा, फिर B4 फ्लश हो जाएगा, फिर B3 से B2, B2 से
नहीं ऐसे ऐसे एक एक करके जाएगा, तो अभी समझ पाए तो उतना काफी है मेरे लिए। ठीक है
सर।
हाँ
सर कि ये सर कोई भी प्रोसेसर में जब हम लोग ये ग्राफिक्स कार्ड डालते हैं, जो इनबिल्ट ग्राफिक्स कार्ड जो है उसमें सर, तो उसमें फिर वो ड्राइवर क्यों डालना पड़ता है? ड्राइवर इंस्टॉल, वो जो ऐसे इंटेल में होता है ना सर, वो ग्राफिक्स इंस्टॉल करना होता है।
देखिए ग्राफिक्स कार्ड का कुछ तो वहां पर हार्डवेयर होगा कि नहीं, कुछ छोटा प्रोसेसर सब कुछ होता है कि नहीं ग्राफिक्स का? ग्राफिक्स का
नहीं सर, वो इनबिल्ट वाला बोल रहा हूँ, वो सीपीयू के अंदर जो होता है।
हाँ सीपीयू के अंदर जो होता है ग्राफिक्स कार्ड,
हाँ हाँ
हाँ वो भी बोल रहा हूँ। There are two ways the CPU comes. The CPU has come with its own inbuilt graphics card, and the CPU also come with a graphics card which is belongs to a different company.
Yes, sir.
So in that case, extra driver necessary. ये तो कॉमन चीज है। हाँ
यस सर।
हाँ
वो जो tag/a.out है,
हाँ
उसमें क्या ये तब ये पूरा आउटपुट खत्म हो जाता है तो वो अपने आप स्टेटमेंट को किल कर देता है क्या?
नहीं जैसे आप ./a.out अगर हम लिख लिए ना, तो एक जैसे इंस्ट्रक्शन जैसा होगा, एक एक करके सब 10 इंस्ट्रक्शन है। ये जब 10 इंस्ट्रक्शन पूरा खत्म हो जाएगा, देन दिस प्रोसेस के लिए जो मेमोरी एलोकेट हुआ होगा वो पूरा डिस्ट्रॉय हो जाएगा, मतलब इट इज इक्विवेलेंट टू किल्ड।
ओके सर। सर आपने बोला था ये एक्सप्लिसिटली होता है, तो
एक्सप्लिसिटली मतलब क्या होता है? हाँ वो बोलो एक्सप्लिसिटली क्या है? सपोज मैं एक प्रोसेस क्रिएट किया हूँ, ठीक है ना? हाँ प्रोसेस एक क्रिएट किया हूँ, जैसे मैं एक बता रहा हूँ, एक छोटा सा प्रोग्राम सपोज लिखा हूँ, अभी जस्ट 1 मिनट में बता रहा हूँ। सपोज यहाँ पे लिखा हूँ scanf this, ठीक है ना? इसको लिखा हूँ, ये लिखा हूँ, लेकिन इसको रन करूंगा कहाँ पे? थोड़ा सा डेस्कटॉप में रन कर रहा हूँ, फिर आपको बताता हूँ कि क्या होता है, क्या है। सो इसमें सपोज जीसीसी देन -gcc देन cd डेस्कटॉप then GCC, then it is b.c, b.c, yes, then ./a.out. ये प्रोसेस अभी चल रहा है या नहीं चल रहा है? This process is currently running or not running? Running. Not. Is it completed? Not completed. No. Not completed. So since it is not completed, देखिए और एक का ले लिया PS minus EL. Yes. ये जो प्रोसेस है ये वाला है, समझ पाए? यस, ये वाला प्रोसेस है, ठीक है ना? Are you getting? ये जो A dot out रन ये बाद में बताऊंगा मैं बोला कि ये जो प्रोसेस ये रन हो रहा है ना, A dot out ये वाला है, अभी भी रन हो रहा है वो, यस, कुछ कंप्लीटेड नहीं हुआ है। तो मैं क्या करूंगा, यहाँ इसका आईडी है 9370, आप देखोगे तो एक ये है आपका PID, हाँ, ये आपका प्रोसेस आईडी है, प्रोसेस आईडी देख रहे हो, यहाँ PID लिखा है। सो उसका नाम क्या है? 93970। ये प्रोसेस अभी भी रन हो रहा है, तो मैं क्या करूंगा, किल 93970, देखो बंद हो गया है, मतलब आई एक्सप्लिसिटली किल्ड और नॉट? Are you getting that type? Okay, that type.
सर क्या ये PIT वही फंक्शंस के नंबर्स है जो हम लोग
नहीं, जब भी आप प्रोसेस एक क्रिएट करते हैं ना, प्रोसेस नॉट फंक्शन, पूरा प्रोग्राम को जब रन करते हैं, हम बोले हैं कि वो एक प्रोसेस है, उसके अंदर 1000 फंक्शन हो सकता है, लेकिन वो एक प्रोसेस है। उस प्रोसेस में को ईच प्रोसेस का एक आईडी होता है, यूनिक आईडी, हर एक का एक यूनिक आईडी, देखिए। यस, एंड अभी अगर देखोगे वो प्रोसेस यहाँ पे नहीं होगा, A dot out चला गया।
अच्छा,
ठीक है ना, क्योंकि इसको मार दिया ना, ये मार दिया मतलब यहाँ से और नहीं है वो आईडी।
Sir, this PS is also one process.
PS is also one process, still it is, but it is not currently present. That PS, when it was running, that time it was present, but now it has a complete. Okay, धीरे-धीरे सीखेंगे, इंटरेस्टिंग आएगा। समझ पा रहे हो तो? Are you able? Because little theoretical initially, that's why I repeatedly ask, समझ पा रहे हो कि नहीं? Because confidence नहीं आने से मजा नहीं आएगा।
सर बहुत देखना पड़ रहा है लेक्चर,
बहुत
आपका रिकॉर्डिंग देखना पड़ रहा है।
देखना पड़ रहा है, क्यों बोलिए?
सर बहुत कुछ ये हो रहा है कि ठीक से मतलब प्रैक्टिकल नॉलेज नहीं मिल पा रहा, तो खुद से समझना पड़ रहा है बहुत बार।
नहीं कुछ और एक बार बोलिए। आई वांट टू नो व्हाट इज द प्रॉब्लम।
सर मतलब कुछ चीज हो रहा है कि एक चीज जैसे जैसे आगे बढ़ रहे तो कुछ चीज पीछे का मिस होते जा रहा है।
हाँ, ऐसे होगा, ऐसे नहीं चलेगा। आप पूरा नहीं जानते ना, कैसे आप मैं भी एक्सपेक्ट करूंगा पूरा कुछ सीख लो।
सर बफरिंग मतलब स्पूलिंग बफरिंग से बेटर है ना?
स्पूलिंग बफरिंग से बेटर है वन सेंस।
हाँ, तो अभी जो ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम हम लोग यूज करते हैं
स्पूलिंग यूज करेंगे,
बफरिंग नहीं यूज होता है, मतलब
बफरिंग नॉर्मल बफरिंग यूज नहीं करते, स्पूलिंग यूज करते हैं।
अच्छा, ओके थैंक
सर
यू।
सर आप जो पिछले क्लास में जो एग्जांपल दिखाए थे सर, वो उसका सोर्स कोड कहाँ से मिलेगा? वो
सोर्स कोड मैं दूंगा आपको, मंडे मिलेगा। वो XP6 का ही है, दैट इज बिलोंग्स टू XP6। वो सोर्स कोड में शेयर करूंगा आप लोग के।
सर और जो वो सिस्टम में जो होता है वो कर्नल वाला, वो सब वो सिस्टम कर्नल देखने से मिल जाता है बोला?
वो सिस्टम में जो होता है वो वाला आपको नहीं मिलेगा, क्योंकि इसका सोर्स कोड अभी यहाँ पर नहीं होगा, आपको नेट में ढूंढना पड़ेगा। ओके
ठीक है सर,
ठीक है, फिर एंड करता हूँ। हाँ, थैंक यू
थैंक यू सर।